Welcome back, everybody, to SJG Perspective. So I wanted to touch on an article. Rashida Tlaib, our wonderful, illustrious Rashid Tlaib, I think is how you say her name. She just put out a statement, and maybe I think she's trying to pass a bill that would give every citizen in America $2,000 a month until this pandemic is over, which, depending on who you talk to, some are saying as much as 18 months to 12 months to 6 months before it's really behind us. They're going to milk it for as long as possible. It'll probably magically, if next year, I would say probably magically disappear, especially if Joe Biden or a Democrat gets into office. All of this will kind of disappear, except for the things that they want to keep in place, like the contact tracing and the removal of any civil liberties of you that they've gotten after the end of this. They're going to keep those, but the rest of it will start to fade off. With the exception, like I said, with what doesn't stick. Of course, it's the new normal. So whatever doesn't stick. But I thought what we'd do is a quick breakdown. Read this article of what Tlaib, this, intellectual giant, this economist of epic proportions, of just unheard of, intellect, has to say about this $2,000 a month. And maybe we'd break that down, because I don't think people understand. It is kind of monopoly money, I'll give you that. And the way our Fed is set up is a complete joke. But this kind of insane lunacy is just speeding. It's just like we're heading towards a cliff, and instead of like trying to brake and slow down to give us a little more time before we go off the cliff, they're just like flooring it, pedal to the metal. Let's Dukes of Hazzard this bitch off the edge. That's kind of what's happening. So thought we'd read this article. Before we do, please like this and please share it out to your social medias. Pause the video right now or just hit that share button and share it, because YouTube is not going to do it. Okay? All right, let's jump right in here. Article window. There we go. It says, oh, look at that famous, I can't stand that turd. Tlaib argues for 2,000 monthly coronavirus payments in next stimulus bill. None of this one-time stuff. Representative Rashida Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, and all of these Democratic leaders, from city council members or mayors to a ridiculous Congress, she's part of the squad, to the Senate. I am convinced they have no understanding of monetary stimulus or monetary policies, monetary understanding, economic understanding. And I'm very limited on what I understand. But I understand enough to know you just can't print money out of thin air and expect it just to keep its value, and you can just do that for perpetually. You can't, right? You can't do that into perpetuity. There's an end to that. There's bad things that happen when we just print money. It's called inflation. Look up the Weimar Republic, right? See what their inflation, what that did to their country after World War I or II, whatever, one of the world wars. Check it out, Weimar Republic. Anyways, Rashida Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, voiced a call for 2,000 monthly payments to everyone for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic, hosting an event Thursday to argue why it should be included in the next stimulus bill. Tlaib unveiled the Mint the Coin proposal in April with Representative Pramil Jayapal, Democrat of Washington. Tlaib argued in a Money to the People webcast Thursday that not only were one-time $1,200 stimulus payments not enough, they were leaving out portions of the populations. Of course, I'm sure they're probably racist. No matter how many moratoriums, those bills are still going to be due later on, Tlaib said. Right, so maybe we shouldn't have this meltdown pandemic that all of you Democrats and a large percentage of you Republicans have gotten behind and pushed. Maybe we should be talking about getting the economy going again, because you're right, rent is due. So maybe we should talk about getting the economy going again. There's a novel thought, huh? There's a novel coronavirus thought for you. Maybe we shouldn't be buying into all this fear pandering to everyone. Or fear-mongering and pandering to everyone. Maybe that's what we shouldn't be doing. I don't know, just a thought. People call me saying I qualify for the stimulus, but I didn't have direct deposit, so I'm still waiting, the Congresswoman explained. She added that the payments weren't making their way to vulnerable populations such as victims of domestic abuse or the homeless. Tlaib explained her plan would supply every American with a debit card that would receive reoccurring payments of $2,000 per month for the duration of the pandemic. Until this is over, none of this one-time stuff. And I bet you there'd be some stipulations like California just put in place with their, their Department of Homeland or Health and Services that said, unless you get tested, you don't get your money. I bet there would be some stipulations on this little credit card that they give us that says, unless you get the vaccinations, unless you say right, do right, act right, you don't get the money either. But if you say right, do right, act right, we'll give you money. We'll just print it up. And then you'll have some toilet paper. In addition, everyone would receive $1,000 per month added to their debit card for at least 1 year following the pandemic. Okay, wow. Tlaib's $1,000 post-pandemic add-ons was a step further than Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders because she couldn't just go as far as Bernie Sanders went. No. She's pandering. She's probably looking for a VP slot, even though that would just be a horrible... Can you imagine Tlaib if Biden got elected and then he's going to be removed? We know that if he does get elected. And somebody like Tlaib was running with him. Holy crap, she'd be your president. That's a scary thought. Tlaib's 1,000 post-pandemic add-on went farther than Sanders, who called for the $2,000 relief payments during the pandemic at the beginning of April. The plan would be paid for by printing of two $1 trillion coins. In April, Tlaib co-sponsored a bill with the fellow squad members, Ilhan Omar, and AOC, to cancel all rent and mortgage payments throughout the pandemic. The bill would establish full rent forgiveness and a relief fund for landlords and mortgage owners. And where's this relief fund going to come from when we print up as much money as she's talking about printing up? So let's break this down. All right, let's break this out. I'll go back here to zero. How do I zero this? I don't even know how to run this calculator. This calculator is too damn confusing. Maybe we just delete that shit. Maybe that's what we do. We'll just hit delete. Nope, that didn't work. Nope, that wasn't it. Oh, the C. I couldn't find it. Duh. Okay, here we go. So she wants to give, we have 300, let's break this out. I'm going to go 300 million. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 300. So there's 300 million. We have 325 million people in America. But I'm going to estimate this conservatively. We're going to times that by $2,000 for each person in America. I think I'm doing this right. So what does that equal? That equals, as you can see over here on this side, $600 billion. Now that doesn't seem like that much money because we hear billions all the time thrown around. What's $600 billion, right? Well, $1 billion equals 1,000 million. So if you see over here, I don't see yeah, you can. If you have 3 zeros, that's a million, right? So one in front of it would be 1 million. Then if you had this, it would be 2 or 20 million. And then if you had here, that's just 3, that's 300 million. Now we go to the next decimal up here, and that's a 1,000 mark. So forget all these zeros. Let's just look from here on over. That's 1,000 million. This would be like 20,000 million. This is $600,000 million. It's 600 billion. $600,000 million. Now, if this is for 1 month. So now before I go on and I break this down a little further, $600,000 million is what it would take for everyone to receive a $2,000 check for 1 month. Now, imagine this. Imagine if you had $1 million. The average American working, $70,000, $80,000 a year job, $50,000 to $70,000 a year job, that would pretty much set them up for life. Now, I know $1 million isn't going to be like it was back in the day, like, oh, I'm a millionaire. No, if you were smart with your money and you paid off your mortgage and you paid off your cars and you paid off your credit cards, you got debt free, you'd probably have, I don't know, if you're just an average middle of the road American, you'd probably have a few $1,000s left over when all's said and done, right? So you can't live off $300,000 for the rest of your life. Well, no, you couldn't just on that alone. You're right. But you got to think of this. Now, how much money do you need to live every month? If you have no debt, none. You need your food money and need to pay your taxes every year for the property that you own. And, you know, you'd have to have some spending money and funding. So if you just lived your normal life, went on one vacation a year, maybe two, and whatever, $300,000 is going to last for probably a decade before you'd have to get another job. But if you kept on to that money, or you reinvest that money, started a business, or you whatever, you could turn that $300,000 back into $1 million and be debt free pretty quickly, right? If you were really smart with your money. But even if you weren't, you could. But you were at least not stupid with your money. You could. That money would last you for a while, and you would be debt free. That's with $1 million. We're talking here about $600,000 million, right? But that's for 1 month. That's to pay everybody for 1 month. So if we were to multiply this number, let's say the pandemic only goes 6 months, right? What does that give us? $3.6 trillion, or otherwise known as $3.6 million. So if we pretended like this $20 bill represented a $1 million, right? Everything we just talked about, what I could live for 10 years off of, pay everything off and live for 10 years off this one, right? We're talking this stimulus for everybody in America would be $3.6 million. $3.6 million, and that's for 6 months. Now, going back to what I said earlier, our monetary policy ever since we went off the gold, the gold-backed currency back in the 70s, is we've just been printing money. It's a Ponzi scheme, essentially, right? So it's bound to crash. We just print money out of thin air all the time. And since we have the strongest military in the world, and we backed our money with oil, and we got in bed with Saudi Arabia and did all these other things that were terrible, our money has perceived value. It's really worthless, and it's a Ponzi scheme. So we're going to fall off that cliff. Essentially what Tlaib and the squad and these moron Democrats are doing is saying, instead of hitting the brakes and trying to skid and maybe not fall off the edge, even though we're going to, having a little more time before we fall off that edge, they're shoving the foot to the floor, they are downshifting, and they are flooring it towards the edge. Just a Dukes of Hazzard launch this bitch right off the edge into oblivion. And what happens is it causes hyperinflation. All of a sudden, your money isn't worth anything anymore. Nothing. You can wipe your ass with it, right? And they'll change all of this before that comes. So if this does get passed, side note, take that money and buy something that's of value while you can. Because if they start doing this, your money is going to lose value. You may get $2,000 a month, but what's that really going to mean when all of a sudden a loaf of bread costs $20? Or a gallon of gas costs $15? Or whatever. All of a sudden your $2,000 a month, or this that you're getting every month, doesn't quite add up the same. It's like if you go back to the good old days where you could buy, for a nickel, you could buy a loaf of bread. Now it costs you $3. That's the same, and that's just normal inflation. This would cause super out of control, on steroids, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back, rip your life apart inflation. That's what this would cause. $3.6 million would cover the American people for 6 months. We just printed about that in the last stimulus that actually went out to the people, and it was $7 trillion. If we do simple math and say, okay, we do it for a year, well, then that's $7.2 million. Do you see where this is going? Do you see how this is not a good idea? Do you see how a much better idea would be, hey, let's get back to work. Let's get the economy back open. Let's, on top of all that, get some good fiscal policies in place and monetary policies in place. Let's abolish the Fed. Let's get our money backed by something again to where it's actually worth something. Let's do all of these things. That's probably the wise thing to do. But you know what? That's not going to happen, because the wise thing to do is not what they want. They want you dependent upon them. They want you worshiping them. They want you groveling them. They want you under their feet. The government and the deep, whatever you want to call it, the cabal, the cabal, globalists, whatever you want to call it. That's where this plan is coming from and getting pushed and implemented on us. That's the reason for all of this. There is no other reason for this, except that they want total dominion, tracking, footprint on top of you all the time. They want you to know exactly who you are, what you do, completely dependent upon them. And if you don't do exactly how they say, they delete you. You get deleted. That is what is happening right now to you, so you should probably wake up and smell the burning coffee. All right, guys, another little episode or another little video. Please share it. Please like it. Please give me your thoughts below if you think I'm full of crap. And until next time, it's FJG. That's what I feel like lately. Oh, FJG. SJG perspective without fear or animus. We'll talk to you guys later, and you guys have a wonderful night. Bye.